So my 190E, that's kind of the car I'm known for. It's a Evo 2, not really, it's just a base 190. And when I say base, it's literally the most base model you can get. It's 2.3 liter automatic. That's what the car started out as. The way I came about getting a 190E is for about the last 10 years of my life, all I wanted to do was be a YouTuber because I watched Me 150 make YouTube videos and I was like, hey, I need to get into this. What better career is there than making videos on cars, building community, and then getting to own cool cars? Well, I really grossly underestimated the amount of work that would take and the money that you need to make and how long it takes to make any money off of social media. I've been trying to do social media since I was 12 years old. That was 10 years ago. I'm now 22. And it took me about 8 years to get to the point of having any income. So about 3 years ago, I got to the point where I was starting to make a couple $100s a month. And like, I'm not joking, that's a couple $100s a month. People think you make YouTube videos and all of a sudden you're like Stradman. That is not the case at all. A year in, I finally have saved up enough money that I can afford to buy a very cheap car to maybe make some content on. And I was looking at what I could afford and I was like, I only have about $6,000 to spend total. I mean, that's all the money in my bank account. I've got nothing else. I was like, what is there that I can buy? Because I want a car that's reliable, I want a car that's cool, and I want a car that I can make a good amount of content on that will be appreciated by other enthusiasts and will kind of reflect like who I am as an individual if I was like a car, if that makes sense. I was looking at Miatas and I was like, man, they're $8,000. I can't even afford a Miata. So then I came across this list as I was making a video one day and it was like top 10 most reliable cars of all time. And it was like, you know, your Lexus LS400, your Toyota Camry, Civic, Corolla, boring stuff. And then there was like 1980s Mercedes 190 or W124, the E-Class. And I was like, those have got to be cheap, right? Like they made millions of them. So I went on Facebook Marketplace and sure enough, if you can find them, they are dirt cheap. Still, even when every other car seems to have gone up in value, you can buy an old 80s Mercedes for less than a down payment on an iPhone. Like they are dirt cheap. Now the parts, people are scared. So that's maybe why they're dirt cheap. But I was like, whatever, it's a reliable car. They drive them all over Africa and all these countries. I mean, you've seen in the Top Gear episodes when they go there, every car's a 190. So I was like, how bad can it be? If they can maintain it, there's no way I can't maintain it. The next week, RM Sotheby's actually called me up and they were like, hey, do you want to make a video on the white collection when they were auctioning it? And I was like, yeah, sure. And then they offered to pay me $2,000 to make a couple of videos on it. And at the time I was like, wow, this is like one of my first ever brand deals. And I said, yes, of course. So I made a few videos on the white collection, which that in itself was insane. And I met Magnus Walker through that. I live in Canada and I went on Marketplace and there was only 2 for sale in everywhere I lived. There was 2 in my entire province. My province is Alberta. Just to put in perspective, like Alberta is massive. Like you think states are big in America, Alberta, like states are small compared to provinces. And Canada's extremely spread out. So that's all I could go and look at. I had 2 options. One was gold and one was white. Well, I tried to message the gold one because it looked a lot nicer. But unfortunately, after about 2 weeks of trying and the guy kept canceling on me, kept blowing me off, I gave up on it. So the only option left was this white one. And they were asking more money for a worse car. So I was like, well, let me at least go drive it, see if I like it. So I went to go look at the car and I pull up and it's this like teenage girl who owns the car. And I'm like, okay, it's in very rough shape and a teenage girl owns it. Like, I was like, how did you get the car? And her name was Carly. And I was like, why on earth do you have this car? Like, this is so random. And she's like, well, it was like my friend's dad or my dad's friend. And he said I could have the car and I'd always wanted it. And then he sold it. And then I got the car somehow. And I don't quite understand exactly how she got the car, but she got the car somehow. And then she did a few jobs on it with her boyfriend because he's a mechanic. And so they fixed it up a little bit to where it was like good and driving. And then they were now trying to sell it on Marketplace because she's like, I don't have space for it. I don't know what I'm going to do with it. And she had a Jetta she was trying to restore. And so I was like, okay, well, I'm interested in your car, but it's got massive rust holes in it. And it's beat up and it's not worth $6,500 or whatever it was listed for. So I took some Ed Bolian inspiration and I negotiated it down and I bought the car for $2,700. And that is Canadian. So I used the 2,000 USD exactly to the cent to buy the car. So I bought the car, I drove it home, and it had a massive like golf ball apparently hit the windshield. So I had a massive golf ball size crack in the windshield as I drove it home. It made it home though. The car, I will say, for all of its faults, drove amazing. Shock's gone, spring's gone, wipers don't work, you know, all these problems. But I bought the car, and then I started looking into the Evo 2 stuff. And that's where it got expensive. Because when I bought the car, my plan was to build an Evo 2 for $15,000. But I quickly realized that just to buy the parts was going to be several $1,000s. So I found a kit in Thailand. It was Hedgehog Tuning was the company that made the Evo 2 kit. I called a guy, found the broker who brought them into the US and Canada, called him. He sold me the kit. I, again, used the rest of my money at this point to buy that kit. And I literally was on a payment plan for the kit. So I gave him a deposit, and then for the 3 months, I paid him a monthly amount, and then he shipped me the kit finally. Then the kit arrives in Calgary, and I have the kit, and I open it up, and I'm with my friend Jason, who runs Infamous Aero, which is the shop that had agreed to help me build the car because I'm not a fiberglass expert. And I was like, I know I don't have the skills right now to build this car, and I really want it to be done well, and I want it to be done. And so I was like, can you help me? And he's like, yeah, I'll help you. And we agreed on a price to build this car. But when we opened the kit, it was the worst fiberglass kit I have ever seen in my entire life, and that Jason had ever seen. And his whole business is making fiberglass kits, building cars, and he was shocked at how bad it was. I mean, we were literally like chipping away at the fiberglass with a screwdriver, and it was just crumpling, disintegrating. If you ever seen those art cars, I think it's Daniel Arsham with the Porsches, and they've got like the cutouts with the crystals and stuff. It literally looked like that. The kit was so bad. And some of the parts didn't even fit. Like the rear roof spoiler on the 190 Evo 2, they built it because the wing didn't meet regulations. So they literally put this spoiler on the back glass so that you couldn't see the wing through the rear window to meet regulations. That piece was just junk. We threw it in the garbage, didn't even fit. It was just like a gray piece of fiberglass. After we opened the kit, I was very disappointed because I was now completely broke, and I had a 190E with massive rust holes and a kit that was about as bad as you can ever get a fiberglass kit. But I had no other choice but to continue on. And thankfully, my friend Jason was determined to help me finish building this car. So we started the process of pulling the 190 apart, and then we found even more rust holes. Like you can fit your fist through the bottom of the car, because on the 190s you've got like the side panels, and when you take those off, water can get stuck over the last 30 years, and it was just so bad. But Jason pushed through, and we ended up welding up all of the rust holes on the car, and we called Hedgehog, and I was posting these videos as we're doing this, kind of like Matt Armstrong, you know, as you rebuild the car, you upload the video. And so when I posted it, I didn't think anything of it at the time. I was like, I just got to post a video. And the 190E community like lost it. They were just like, oh my gosh, this kit is terrible. Hedgehog has a great reputation. Up until that video came out, then it really was bad. It was like, whoa, this company, which everyone had said was the best company to buy an Evo 2 kit from, somehow had just shipped out the worst possible Evo 2 kit you could get. And it was shockingly bad. So bad that Hedgehog addressed the situation and actually released like a public statement and made a whole thing, and we're like, we are so sorry, we don't know how this happened. It was, you know, bad molds or lack of employee quality control. So thankfully Hedgehog ended up sending me about half a new kit. So I got new front fenders, I got new wing, I got new rear spoiler, but all of this delayed me in trying to get the car done. And remember, I'm spending all of my money, so I can't afford to have this car not work. Like I'm basically betting my entire salary on this car every month. I'm taking my YouTube money, my $1,000 I got, and giving it straight to Jason to help me build this car and to buy whatever parts I need to finish it. So Hedgehog sends me half the kit replacement, and the replacement parts were amazing, like 10 out of 10 best quality I've ever seen in my life. So we put this kit on the car and we sand it down, we finished the car. It took about 3 months, almost full time, just working on this car 5 days a week. We finally get it done. I take it out to some car shows and I let everyone draw on the car before I wrapped it, and so that was kind of cool. And then I took off some of the bits that we weren't going to use, and Hedgehog sent us the wing because he hadn't sent it by that point. But then we wrapped the car, and the wheels that are on the car are actually racing Hot Wheels from 1994 from Japan. A lot of people, when they build an Evo 2, they get this other company that makes sort of like the replica wheels for the DTM series, and that's what I was gonna do. But the day that I bought the car on Marketplace, this set of genuine racing Hot Wheels popped up, and my friend Scotty found them, and he went and bought them for me for $700 Canadian, which is insane because those wheels go for around 3,000 USD. So I got those set of wheels, powder coated them white, wrapped the car in baby blue. It's actually a Golf blue color from Porsche, I think it is. And I got it off the Bowden Autohaus Carrera GT, and Nosatec sent me a roll. We did the whole car. A lot of people question why I did it in baby blue with white wheels, but I did it because I knew that if I'm gonna spend my entire year's income off YouTube to build this car, I want it to stand out and I want people to remember me and remember this car. And so I did it in baby blue because it was like my favorite color, and I thought the white wheels would look cool if I did a racing livery and it had white bits on it. So that's why it's in baby blue. A lot of people wanted me to do it in black, but there's 500 Evo 2s out there in black. I was just like, why would I do black? That's so boring. If I didn't do baby blue, I would have definitely done all white, full white out, like 80s Hammer spec. Maybe that'll still come one day, but as of right now, I finished the car, and my budget of $15,000, I ended up spending $21,000 to do. So that's not terrible considering, but it literally took my entire 12 months, every penny I made from social media, reinvested straight into that car, which for me was a big risk, but thankfully it paid off. Thanks to that car, I got some brand deals with eBay. They helped me do some more content, and people loved the build. Jason was an absolute hero. If it wasn't for Jason, the car wouldn't have been done. And after that, I've driven the car since to Monterey Car Week. I've driven it to Seattle. I've driven it to Vancouver. I've driven it to Kelowna a few times. I've really driven it all over sort of the Pacific Northwest, and I plan to take it on many more road trips. Now, I mentioned at the beginning of the video, it was a 2.3 automatic. It took all my money to build the car, so at the time I got a lot of flack for why on earth is it not a manual, why haven't you swapped it? Well, I literally couldn't afford to. I literally didn't have the money, and I didn't have the mechanic skills, and I've learned one thing in my life: don't pull a car apart unless you can afford to put it back together. And whatever you think it's gonna cost, times it by 3. And I was like, well, I can't do that, so I'm not gonna pull it apart. I'm just gonna drive it for the time being. Now I'm finally getting to a point where I can justify building it and putting an engine in it and putting a manual transmission in it. It's just a question of which engine, which transmission do I want to put in the car, because I still want it to be reliable. I still want to be able to drive it cross country. I don't want it to blow up, and I want it to be a Mercedes engine ideally. I don't want to put some LS in it because that's a whole nother story with my Rolls-Royce. That's a disaster.
This month of VINwiki content is brought to you by Bridgestone, and the most exciting tire from Bridgestone right now is the brand new RE71RZ. That's their extreme max performance summer tire that is championing pole position. It's built for the grassroots motorsports crowd and offers much better on-track wear patterns than we saw out of the amazing RE71RS that it is now replacing. It uses Bridgestone's enlightened technology to deliver long-lasting performance and much more responsive control. And the RE71RZ is now available across North America in 45 sizes since December 31st of last year. This new tire meets all requirements for SCCA racing and will be eligible for competition use in 2026 for solo and time trials. This new tire is 0.74 seconds faster on a dry lap and 75/10 of a second faster in a wet lap compared to the outgoing RE71RS. This really is an amazing new sports car and supercar tire from Bridgestone, so check it out now, along with everything else that we love about Bridgestone, at the link in the description below.